Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Express. I'm Neena Gopal. This is the new Indian Express's weekly interaction with experts, where we analyze the impact of developments in our backyard, on our neighborhood, on India, of course. Do click on the new Indian Express website and tweet and follow Global Express. So, how did we go from a Canada which was just a niggling nuisance to India's new nemesis? Did we underestimate Canada? Did we miscalculate the fallout of a rupture in India-Canada relations? Should we have done a backroom deal, or have we done the right thing by calling out Canada for its obvious stories and lies? In fact, it was more than obvious during the G20 that the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was bent on triggering a standoff with India, and equally that India would not yield an inch. Trudeau's refusal to attend the official banquet, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi's refusal to hold a one-on-one with him and only have a 15-minute pull aside, and then even with the Canadian official aircraft developing a snag, Trudeau refusing to accept the offer of a ride home, and even the presidential suite. I mean, it said a lot more than words. But at the core of the divide is Trudeau's so-called credible allegations that Indian intelligence agencies were behind the killing of this Khalistan Tiger Force leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar back in June in Surrey in British Columbia. India has denied it, describing it as absurd. But will this make relations with the West more tricky? The United States is said to have worked on the investigation with Canada. At least that's one of the stories that has appeared in the newspapers. It says it's deeply concerned. Will the US, the UK, Australia, and India's new role as a counterbalance to China be affected? Or is Justin Trudeau about to learn that his domestic compulsions cannot spill into the international domain? Or does India really have some explaining to do? Has it blotted its copybook? So, discuss the ramifications of these accusations. We have with us the much respected former head of the Research and Analysis Wing, who had Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and National Security Advisor Brajesh Mishra's year on Pakistan and Kashmir. A big welcome to you, Mr. Dulat. And to you, Mr. Prabhjot Singh, an award-winning journalist of some 40 years standing. He has one foot in Punjab, the other in Canada. Based for the most time in Toronto, he keeps a keen eye on developments in the Sikh diaspora, straddling both worlds with some aplomb. Last but not least, Professor Heba Hassan. She's an Egyptian Canadian. She's a journalist, she's a creative writer, a poet, and has worked as a professor. So let's start with you, Mr. Dulat, because you may be the one who has the most explosive information that you're not about to spill, I'm sure.
But like the way you put me anyway.
So, have to put you on the spot. Ties with Canada, but ties with Canada have not been friendly for years. I mean, we've had retired police officers.
They've not been so good.
And also, they say that police officers with stints in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, have been denied visas. In 2005, the Canadian Sikhs who were involved in the R&AW bombing were acquitted of all charges. And then you had Harjit Singh Mann, the Canadian minister, who was given short shrift by the Punjab Chief Minister Amrinder Singh when he was on an official visit in 2018. Now, Canada has gone public with the name of this intelligence officer. India has done the same. India has issued a travel advisory now against traveling to Canada, and worse still, it suspended visa services. What do you think is there any truth to the Canadian allegations that India is interfering in Canada's internal affairs when it's the other way, when it could well be just be the other way around?
It's very difficult to believe that our agencies involved in this, because it's never happened in the past. And I served 30 years in the Intelligence Bureau and 2 in the R&AW. We never heard of any such thing, And I could give you umpteen instances of where we might have meddled or this thing. I remember in 2000 when I was in the R&AW, the CIA chief George Tenet had come visiting the summer of, I think, May, June 2000. And he was coming from Pakistan after meeting Musharraf. And we had a good conversation. And a couple of months after that came his counter-terrorism chief, a chap called Kofa Black. He had come to talk to Brijesh Mishra, but Brijesh passed him on to us. And he wanted to know the latest on Pakistan and what is happening across the border and things. And our guys briefed him. Then he said to me, could I have a couple of minutes with you? I said, come in and have a cup of tea with me. So he said, we're talking to the Pakis and we put pressure on them to behave and bring down violence and stop this cross-border thing and infiltration and whatever. And he said, we hope you will also behave. I said, we always behave. We've never misbehaved. So he said, I'm glad. And that was the end of the matter. So I don't think anybody ever doubted us. Now, this is totally new. And apart from the fact that it's new, the manner of it is also very new. For the Prime Minister of Canada to announce this in his parliament, surely, a lot of these things do happen from time to time. And some of them are quite serious and they spoil relations for a while. But they're not made so public, Now this has become so public that it is going to mess up their relations for a while. And I don't know why when Prime Minister Trudeau came to Delhi, he couldn't engage properly with our Prime Minister or whatever it is. Because this could have been done quietly, And if they thought that...
that's the actual point of it. Why wasn't it done quietly?
Yeah, if one of our diplomats was up to no good, all they had to do was warn us or send him back. And we would have sent somebody back also. And the world need not have known about it. But now it's been broadcast all over. It's become a big issue. And it will spoil relations for a while. I hope only for a while.
No, but the thing is, Khalistan, Canada has basically, has accused India of doing in Israel. Basically the point is that these accusations on Hardeep Singh Nijjar being bumped off by us, could as well be down to, kind of a gangland warfare between various Sikh groups that operate with impunity in Canada. That's the general impression that we have. Do you think it could be that, Mr. Dulat? Do you think it could be?
I really don't know. I'm not so up to date with what's happening in Canada, whether it's their gang warfare or what it is. But, there is a viewpoint in Canada. It's been there for a while that there are Sikhs there. It's a very large Sikh population. And this village that you mentioned, Surrey, because I've been to Vancouver and my Sikh taxi driver invited me to Surrey. I would love to, because it's a exclusively Sikh village. But I couldn't make it.
So can we turn to you, Mr. Prabhjot Singh? Did this distrust go back to 2020 when Prime Minister Trudeau expressed concern over the farmers' protest? Has it been simmering since then? Because, when when Trudeau came in 2018 to India, he did sort of pander to the Sikh sort of, constituency by wearing these over-the-top Indian costumes. And plus, he even invited Jaspal Atwal, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, who was convicted in 1986 of the attempted murder of a Punjab minister visiting Canada. So what is behind Trudeau's sort of, playing to the gallery? Is he playing to the gallery?
Yeah. Neena, I must it's not since 2020. Relations between India and Canada have always been right from 1947 till now. It's always hot and sour. We never had any smooth phase of good relations between the two nations, right? Early 1980s, 1982, Mrs. Gandhi had even asked Canadian Prime Minister Justin's father, Pierre, hey, please take control of 6. They are active there, the militants. It is that old. And if you look at the sequence of events since then, like 1982, then what happened, then nuclear blast, then India, Canada sanction, withdrawal of its diplomats from India, and then Reform Party was there earlier. This is now Conservatives, but initially it was the Reform Party. Then it became Progressive Conservatives. Now it's Conservatives. So Preston Manning had come to India at that time. He brought a delegation of MPs, and he wanted Canada to lift the sanctions and send back its ambassador to High Commissioner to Delhi. So then there was a phase when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, and during his tenure, both Prime Ministers of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh of Congress and Narendra Modi, went to Canada. And Stephen Harper went with them, and that was one phase where relations were quite cordial between the two countries. But once Liberals came back to power, I don't know whether Liberals had some problem with Delhi all the time. His father had problems with Delhi. Now Justin had problems with Delhi. When he came to India in 2018, he had problems. As you mentioned, he did all those things. And issues like Sikhs are an issue, basically a very main irritant between India and Canada. Those Sikhs are everywhere in the world, but they are not that serious a problem as is in Canada. The Sikhs are very large number in Kenya. They are in Australia. They are in England. But it's never come up at that level, government to government level. Though there have been internal, as Mr. Dulat would clarify or may give more light on this, because as he mentioned, Justin Trudeau, I think he shouldn't have done that, which he did in Parliament. It was without credible evidence. Usually credible allegations are something different. Credible evidence is something different. And raising an issue in House of Commons is a big thing. And you are accusing a nation without substantiating that charge. Just saying we have credible allegations, credible indications.
That's true. Everybody has questioned that, the phraseology, because it doesn't say much.
Relations were never good. Though Canada's relations with India may not be that good. We have been talking about free trade agreement for a long, long time. It was to reach by 2010, 15 billion mark. And after now, it's 2023, it's still not even 10 billion. Though there
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. And number of issues the two countries, they always talked about cooperating with each other, signing agreements, MOUs, and things like this. But nothing has happened because somewhere there is a feeling of mistrust between the two governments. That mistrust has been leading to this standoff. And had they on the diplomatic channel or other channels, they wanted to sort out these differences or interference or things like this. So Canada is already holding an investigation of foreign interference in their domestic affairs. Like they are accusing China, they are accusing other countries, including India.
In fact, I wanted to bring in Professor Hassan on this China angle. Professor Hassan, if we could just bring you in. Appearing in all these Canadian newspapers is very interesting. It talks about how the Chinese are playing, are basically trying to pull the strings from behind the scenes. That that Justin Trudeau is refusing to even acknowledge that there's Chinese interference. Much to India's chagrin. India's complained several times. So why is he ignoring the Chinese? Is it because he has a vote bank issue?
Good morning to everybody. It's the morning in Toronto, Canada now. I listened carefully to your two guests, and at my end, I think it's a very polarizing issue, and to approach it from my point of view, I would like to take another lens, a wider lens. I've been following the on and off relationship between India and Canada, and I wanted to know what's the root of that. And the earliest I could get to was the bombing of the Air India flight.
Kanishka,
yes. And I followed through the ups and downs between the two nations. Just in the morning, this morning, a couple of hours ago, in the news here, Canadian news, there were talks about the intelligence that the Canadian government had collected. And actually, they said that one of the Five allies to Canada had shared with them interception between the Indians and the Indian diaspora here, namely the Khalistanis. And they,
yes, I saw
Jake
that story.
Sullivan, the advisor, did you follow that? The advisor of the American president, Jake Sullivan,
yes,
had
National
talked
Security
about
Advisor.
that without details. So it was sort of solidifying Trudeau's stand in the claims he made at the House of Commons here. With that said,
can I just ask?
and from
Can I just ask Mr. Dulat whether he also noticed that comment by Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor? And I mean, that is quite a, I mean, the fact is that India is being positioned as this, this counterbalance to China. And
Yeah, I saw that remark of Jake Sullivan, but I don't know what information he has or what intelligence he has on the basis of what he's talking. Unless that comes out into the open. He has, he's made it clear that the United States is in support of Canada. They're not.
But under your watch, Mr. Dulat, under your watch, Mr. Dulat, I mean, we've had, we've known for a very long time that people have escaped from Punjab, that the police have wanted and under false passports and stuff like that, and appeared in Canada, made their homes in Canada. The separatists, include the Babar Khalsa, which is a Pakistan affiliate, the World Sikh Organization, and now the Sikhs for Justice. This is headed by this man called Gurpat Panoon, who's openly threatening Canadian Indians who are Hindus. They're asking them to leave the country. There is, of course, the Niger's Khalistan Tiger Force. He has gone to Pakistan. Did you guys ever, figure out that he was in league with the Pakistanis on this, creating this Khalistan Tiger Force and Khalistan Liberation Front and so on? Did we complain in the past?
I can't recall the links between, the Khalistanis in Canada and the Khalistanis in Pakistan. We were keeping a watch more on the Khalistanis in Pakistan, and there were these guys in black shirts in Lahore. I think it was the Dal Khalsa and the Bab. And they were there for a number of years, and the links were well known between them and what was happening in the Punjab. But that's an old story, and I think it's over now as far as our Punjab goes. There is no great Khalistani movement. Nobody talks much about Khalistan. And if somebody like Simranjit Singh Mann does raise the matter, what he's talking about is that Punjab expects a level playing field. And, you come back to the farmers' issue and the river waters, and sometimes Chandigarh might be raised. So that is there, but we don't have a Khalistani problem right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Punjab is peaceful. Yes. So what is it that India has not Mr. Prabhjot Singh, what do you think? Have we done enough to sort of raise awareness about these, these Khalistani terrorists who've taken shelter in Canada? I mean, they operate openly in all these wonderful cities, Toronto, Vancouver, and yet they were allowed to take out an entire, parade commemorating Indira Gandhi's assassination. I mean, that's what this Niger did. So, how worried should India be about, the Khalistan turning into another, not Pakistan, but I mean, in the sense, a threat to India from afar, nevertheless.
Yeah, you see, the issue is like, as I said earlier, it's a very, very old issue. And not many people, like in Canada, who are immigrants from India, who are now even Canadian citizens, they don't subscribe to this philosophy or this thought. So there are people, I don't say they're not there. There are people there, and they keep on raising this issue. And like, as in England, when Dr. Jagjit Singh Chauhan was there, so people used to say that England is supporting Khalistan. Jagjit Singh Chauhan was there, and then he came to India. And you see, similarly, there are some leaders who are very active, and their survival is because unless they keep on talking about Khalistan, so they'll be finished. And then there are groups within groups also. They are not one group, unified group. So there are so many groups working on different ideologies and different levels. So they have been there, and you see, what happened is some of the Punjabis, or in general, and Sikhs in particular, they hold a general grouse against India. That grouse is because Punjab is the only state which has witnessed two divisions. First in 47, again in 66.
And you don't have a capital.
And perhaps the only state which has no capital.
Yeah.
Oldest state which has no capital. And whatever Punjab built after 47 has been taken away by center. You see, capital they built, taken away. Bhakra Dam, Beas Dam, taken away. All the institutions, Punjab University, PGI, whatever, Cairo and others built, they are all now under center. And then center has not invested much in industry in Punjab. And agriculture, as you see, is again very unremunerative. So there are problems. That's why there is a huge exodus of Punjab youth, because there is no scope for them. They don't see any future in Punjab.
But that is the fault of the Punjab governments, isn't it? The successive governments haven't built.
Also, because you see earlier, like the recruitment in central government organizations. If you see the quota of Punjab representation in central government services, say railways, say services, it's gone down, especially the defense forces.
I was going to say, isn't it the backbone of the Indian Army?
It used to be, but not now, because then when you had that ratio, the able-bodied people to the population, so then the strength of Punjabis in defense forces gradually started coming down. So this issue was raised again and again. And then the demand for autonomy, because more power to more states and less the center control major portfolios and leave the rest to the states.
I understand there are rumblings within Punjab.
That's why that frustration is getting sported at times, because they are not finding job. They are finding agriculture no more remunerative. They don't have any other avenues for employment.
That's right.
Till those issues are addressed, you see, then this sport will automatically go away. But once these issues are like, every time the state is fighting for water, for territory, for capital, for agriculture prices, they are demanding minimum sport price. So whenever like these issues, unless they are addressed and people think, yes, center is worried about them,
I'd like to go to Professor Heba Hassan for a minute. Professor, can you just explain to us? I mean, there must be you taught in universities in Canada, and you've dealt with a whole load of expatriate students and stuff. Will they have cause to worry now? I mean, are these students going to have to, because I mean the kids are going to be there stranded without visas to come home? Also being targeted because of their, of their Sikhs or non-Sikhs. I mean, there are pro-Khalistan groups which are now going to stage protests across the Indian missions, on September 25th, I believe. And, they're marking out the Indian diplomats, naming diplomats. What do you think? Do you see a kind of a trouble at your doorstep?
Definitely, most definitely, especially being a Canadian who's not Indian. So, as a polarizing issue, as I said before, both the Indian media and the diplomacy at large had approached this, and also the social media people, bloggers and YouTubers. They have covered it from comprehensively, I would say. But what I want to bring to the table here, as we discuss, are two issues. Is there any similarities to this particular event, which is our Prime Minister accusing India as a nation of interfering in the murder of a Canadian Indian in Canada? And the second issue I would like to bring to the table, the other diasporas in Canada, like the Egyptians, the Muslims in large,
Exactly.
the Arabic speaking nations, so on and so forth. So for the first one, I could remember the handling of the murder of Adnan Khashoggi in Turkey, Istanbul.
Exactly.
And how the nations, because it was mainly a standoff between Saudi Arabia and United States, they didn't approach it from a governmental point of view. It was handled on the premise of diplomatic allies. So it was as much as it was rah-rah, and everybody was talking about it from a human rights point of view. It didn't create a standoff between Saudi and the United States. Saudi, not the crown prince, as a nation, as a government of Saudi Arabia, and it was handled. I cannot fathom why our Prime Minister decided to, the Canadian Trudeau, our Trudeau, why did he decide to bring this in the forefront at the Parliament, at the House of Commons? It was supposed to be handled in the diplomatic allies. And
so why do you think he did that? Why do you think he went public?
I could only think from the local point of view. We're coming to big elections, federal elections next year. And I think that he's siding with Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, especially that he's foreseeing a lot of supporters from the liberals. I mean, not the liberal as in registered liberals, but the liberal thinking people, especially with his approach to the issue of gender affirming act. This angered a lot of people, a lot of communities, myself included. Absolutely. I voted liberals in the last federal elections, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
So you're going to be one of the 63% which has disapproved of Justin Trudeau and say they will not vote for him.
I am not for his policies whatsoever, not only on that particular event, but as I told you, there is a huge what would I call it? People upset with the gender affirming act that has been passed in our parliament, and forcing parents to allow little kids, preschoolers and elementary schoolers, to choose their gender, and to force the parents to follow suit. And
That's-
this is a very, very polarizing issue. So not only this event, I think he's thinking of his next minority government in 2014, and 2024. I'm sorry, and he's thinking that by siding or making affiliation with the NDP, especially the leader is Sikh, that's his reason. Otherwise, I can't think of another a logical reason for him to come up in the parliament and accuse a nation of involving in the killing of a Canadian citizen.
Yeah,
because things happen.
That's true. That's been said. I mean, in the last couple of days, that's all that he's been accused of politicking. But if I can come back to you, Mr. Dulat, 21 Khalistanis, we've now got a list. The National Investigative Authority has issued a list of these Khalistanis who have taken shelter in Canada. One of them is Goldie Brar, who's escaped to Canada, and as I said, this whole business about one group threatening Canadian Indians who are Hindu. Do you think that, that we have not made enough of a noise about the sheltering of these kind of elements, terror elements in Canada? Not enough. And do you think Pakistan has a hand in it at all now in destabilizing Punjab? I mean, there is supposedly a drug narco supply route, and everyone says that Khalistan has got ISI support, and as Mr. Singh rightly said, that exodus of young people leaving is not a good sign. But do you think it's there is a Pakistan involvement at all?
No, not at all. I don't think we should start blaming Pakistan for everything, just the way Pakistan blames us for everything.
Yeah, Balochistan, for example. Yeah,
and I think everyone on your panel is in agreement with whatever has happened, that it's not the best way that it should have happened. It should have been handled diplomatically. And coming to your this thing about the list of 21 or something, I think we need to make out a proper case for the extradition. And if we have a strong enough case, then I don't see any reason. You can't give a country a list of 21 and ask for extradition of 21. We've been working very hard to get a couple of Indians extradited from Britain, and we haven't succeeded. So if you do it one at a time, you mentioned Goldie Brar or whoever he is. Now, if we have a proper case, I think it should be put across to the Canadians, and I don't see any reason why they should not cooperate.
Have we ever had a successful extradition deal at all in the past? Have we done anything?
It's not easy, because the similar rules apply everywhere. I mean, if we were asked to extradite certain people, we would also not do it. So it depends on case-to-case basis, and you can't just ask for somebody. We've been asking for Dawood Ibrahim for I don't know how many years now.
Who lives openly in Karachi.
Yeah, who's openly in Karachi. And then many such things happen. But the point is that you have to have a case, and you have to have friendly relations with that country. You have to have cooperation with that country to expect extradition. Otherwise, I think this is just a pro forma thing. We'll give you a list of 21 and they'll give us another list.
Yeah. So these referendums that are happening, Mr. Singh, in Canada, which are for Khalistan, and these kind of demonstrations against, the sort of throwing paint and demonstrations in front of our, various missions in Canada. Is that something which is being sort of the administration is looking the other way and allowing it to happen in the name of a liberal press and so on and so forth? Or should we make a noise about it?
I don't think so. Like, you see, the police will not interfere here till you are breaking the law. if you are holding a demonstration and you are not harming anybody, so they won't intervene in that matter. So that's one thing which, since we come from India and we have seen such handling of situation in a different way, they don't do that here.
But in
So they say
March,
everybody has freedom of
Mr.
expression.
Singh, but in
Pardon?
March, Mr. Singh, in March, last March, just a couple of months ago, they vandalized the Indian High Commission in Ottawa. I mean, and he was behind it. Nijjar was behind it, right? So, and he's also said to have been behind, the blasts in Punjab. Was designated a terrorist in July 2020, and the Punjab police did ask for his extradition because he's supposed to have been, behind the murder of a Hindu priest. So, he's not, I mean, and holding a referendum, if you can just come back to that. I mean, okay, protest demonstrations that the police will allow, but a referendum in Brampton in September 2022, where he openly campaigned for an independent homeland in Punjab.
No,
How
you
is
see,
that allowed?
that's a question you should pose to government of Canada, because I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Why they are allowing it. And people in Canada, they are very peaceful people. And I can tell you the Indian community in Toronto, in Canada, overall is very peaceful and has nothing against India or nothing. Like they don't support Canada government if they support such elements who are for division, or who are for secession, or who are for uh, um asking one community to leave Canada. No, nobody will support that.
But
Nobody supports.
there is a movement within Canada for a separate state of Quebec, right?
It was always there. There are two referendums have been held already on that. Two referendums, and that's the way. That's how the Canadian value system unfolds itself. So they say, okay, as long as you are peaceful, you are not obstructing people, you are not playing with lives of people, you are not trying to harm people, you have a right to express yourself. That's all.
So are you basically saying it's all noise, but nothing will come out of it?
Because you see, you are so how many like kilometers from India to Canada, you are making a noise here. You are not
Halfway
making a
across the
noise
world.
where the problem is in Punjab or in India. You are not there. So you make a noise, and that noise, because at times some actions of the government, of Indian government or Canadian government, will antagonize them, will not help. Like, unless you start a dialogue, you everything, like all conflicts, have to resolve through a dialogue. You see, you can't take to other means. So what is the beauty of a democracy? You have dissent. So you disagree not to agree, right? So you have a viewpoint, they have a viewpoint. Talk to them, sort out the differences, whatever they want. Like the differences between the two governments, as everybody said, should have been handled diplomatically, not through downsizing each other, not playing down each other. What anybody has gained? You see, as you said, they had a meeting, push aside meeting. What both, just whatever they had inside them, they just accused each other. They didn't listen to each other.
They were talking at each other. Yes,
yeah,
you're right.
they were just, whatever was there, they're just vomiting it out without listening to each other. That's why the situation has deteriorated so much. And who are the sufferers? The people, the common people. Like, now you have stopped issuing visas. Who will suffer? Indian community, especially those who have families. There's some deaths in the
Medical
family, there's wedding in the
emergencies.
family, there are other things. So they are not able to get visas. So who suffers? Because the fight is political, or maybe for leadership. But why a common man should suffer in the process?
I agree.
And common man is suffering here. Everybody is feeling so insecure now. People of Indian origin, they're feeling so insecure. Like, what's going to happen next?
That's true.
Who is instilling this sense of insecurity among people?
Professor Hassan, if you can comment on that, that will be very interesting. Do you feel that the people of Indian origin and all of these guys who travel frequently between the Middle East, India, Canada, are feeling nervous about this.
Absolutely. In fact, personally speaking, I was planning to visit India during the winter break. But now the plans is in the wind. But I wanted actually to touch upon a very important, from my point of view, a very important issue. And that is freedom of speech, as it's been touched upon, and the right to call for separatism, and that's a huge issue. And there is a glaring, bright, wide red line has been crossed here, because I have seen plenty of demonstrations done by Egyptians after the uprising in 2011. Iranians, they do that all the time. I mean, the Iranian diaspora here, or the Egyptian diaspora. But to call for a separation, that's the bright red line here. Anyone can say what they think, but to gather around a call for separatism, that's a whole issue that has to be addressed with care and with diplomacy, not with hot-headed people. So is this bright red line has been crossed? Yes. Because what's being talked about is a piece of land to be cut from a nation and to separate from this nation. This is a political issue. And,
That's right.
It's a very, very divisive political issue. But from the point of view of normal people like me and you, of course I'm affected. Now my trip is done. Also the Indian, not only the Sikh Indian here, all the Indians who want to go back to India for a visit or invite their families to visit here, that's they have been in shambles now, and it's affecting everybody.
No, I think I also believe that when this Nijar joined the Babar Khalsa International, he traveled to Pakistan to meet the Khalistan Tiger Forces chief, right? Jagdar Singh, who was also called Tara, and Tara was involved in the Punjab Chief Minister Beant Singh's assassination. So, I mean, Canada is supposed to have arrested Nijar in 2018. So, Mr. Dulat, do you think that, this is gang warfare, really? Because, if you look at it, he's got Pakistan links for sure. And he had a running battle with this other man, the man who was the main accused in the Kanishka 1985 bombing, Ripudaman Singh Malik. He vowed to teach Malik a lesson, and Malik was bumped off, and then Nijar himself gets bumped off. So shouldn't we actually, has India been a little remiss in not highlighting who this Nijar is after he was bumped off? After he died in that shooting in June. Do you think we've been remiss?
No, I don't think so. I think we've been raising these matters. I think the point has been made very well by our Egyptian friend, Egyptian-Canadian friend, that, there is a red line somewhere and that should not be crossed. Red line being secessionism. The point really is that there is a Sikh diaspora. The numbers are not very large. Now, you said we provided a list of 21. Similarly, there may be 5 or 7 in the United States. There may be another 3 or 4 in Britain. But the number is not very large. And they have decided to settle in Canada because, Sikhs have been going to Canada for a very long time. And even today, when, as our friend from Toronto said,
Mr. Singh,
things a lot of Sikh youth are shifting to Canada because, let's hold it and let's face it that in Punjab, the land holdings are very small and it's becoming increasingly difficult to live off the land. Plus, most of the youngsters, even those who don't go to Canada, let me put it like this, they prefer to sell off a piece of their land and to shift to urban areas. Living in the side is becoming more and more difficult, and they don't make enough money. So this shift to Canada, I think, will continue out to North America. It's not going to stop, and I don't think the Canadians are going to stop giving visas either. But
so there won't be a Canadistan.
What I feel is that the numbers are small, and we need to handle it. Like Sardar Sahab said, through talks, diplomatically and engagement, there is no other way.
And Mr. Singh, if I can just come to you, does this Khalistan footprint go beyond Canada? I mean, there are rumblings even in Australia, and there was a guy in Birmingham in the UK in June this year called Avtar Singh Khanda who died. They say it's natural causes, but he was the chief handler of Amritpal Singh, that Dubai returned chief of the Waris Punjab Day, who got arrested after a shootout in Punjab. So, there does seem to be, a sort of widening footprint of these of this group. I mean, among the Khalistani groups in the UK and Australia.
Yeah, you see, the presence is not only in North America, not only in Canada and USA or UK. You see, one of the terrorists who was most wanted, he's now come back into mainstream, is Wasan Singh Zafarwal. He had almost settled down in Europe. He was on the border of Switzerland. He used to run there, and then he came back to India. Then he surrendered. You see, there are people. Then Dr. Jagdish Singh Chauhan also came back from England. So there are people. But some modules are there in almost all Western countries. They are operating from different countries. In Germany, they're still there. They are England, they are there. So there, New Zealand, some elements are there. Then Australia, of course, they are there. But there are some countries like Kenya. There are lots of Sikh population, but you never heard of any Khalistani element there. There are other countries also where lots of Sikhs are there, but there is no talk of Khalistan there. But some modules who have been hardcore or ideologues, they have been operating from different lands and they're trying to gain support. So
I believe a lot of the money, Mr. Singh, is collected from the Gurudwara, Niger in particular, in Savi. A lot of the money.
Not exactly Gurdwaras. You see, Gurdwaras, basically, when the concept of Gurdwara in Western world was a different concept. Initially, there used to be only one place where people would come of all communities of Indian origin, all Hindus, Muslims, they would come to Gurdwara. So Gurdwara used to serve as basically a community center.
That's right. Feed and good food.
Now, after 84, now a number of Hindu temples have come up in Canada, in North America, huge temples.
Yeah, could you tell us about that? Could you tell us about this whole attacks on the Hindu temples that are being orchestrated by the Khalistanis? Is that a sort of a source of worry for ordinary citizens?
You see, what happens is stray incidents are blown up so much. You see anything, and it's straightway attributed to people who are Sikhs in general and Khalistanis in particular. There may be other elements also. They may be trying to flare up tensions between the two communities.
But who would be trying to make that an issue?
There's so many mischievous elements. Any external agencies, other agencies, they are always trying to look for causes to create a rift between different communities of a good nation. So they without substantiating any charge, you see, without ever being established, yes, for this defacement, so many people were responsible. these have been identified and they have been convicted. Is there any conviction? Is there any case which has proved afterwards, okay, yes, this was done by so and so? Within India, you see, when I was covering Punjab, there used to be so many cases of sacrilege. People used to throw bundles of tobacco, beedis, cow tails, and things like this in temples, in gurdwaras. Yeah. So this is not a new game. This is a very old game. And I think Mr. Dulat will can tell you much more on this. So there are elements who are always looking for opportunities and chances and avenues from where they can create a rift, though, like they won't be ever identified or ever be convicted, but blame will continue to be heaped on one community or the other community.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's one must look into background also. One must look in perspective why such problems arise. What will they gain by defacing a wall of a temple or writing some graffiti outside a temple or a Sikh Gurdwara? Why? It is happening not only in temples, in Sikh Gurdwaras also it has been happening.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
If I can just I think that the fact that they are that both communities there's now a rift is a source of worry for sure. Professor, if I can just turn to you, Professor Heba, you brought up Jake Sullivan. So, India is set to play this larger role in the Indo-Pacific. I mean, many commentators believe now that there could be a rethink. Do you believe this? I mean, do you think that with Trudeau reaching out to the Five Eyes, and that he wanted them to issue a joint statement, apparently on the sidelines with G20, which they didn't because it would have been a huge embarrassment. Will it affect, India's positioning, you think? And Mr. Dulat, you can come in after that, on our joint counterintelligence and counter-terrorism operations. If will it drive a wedge, you think, between India and all these other countries? I mean, we've developed a great deal of trust. We have to round up.
I don't think so. Sorry to interrupt you, but no, I don't think so. This issue has been discussed amongst the Five Eyes long time ago. It's not new. The news was just regarding Jake Sullivan coming out and saying that, yes, there is interceptions and we have information. And from the mouth of a former chief of CSIS, which is the Canadian intelligence agency here, he said, if it's intelligence, we will not disclose it to the public because it might sabotage methodologies of gathering data, people, agents, so on and so forth. That's from that standpoint. But if I understood your question correctly, you're referring at a rift to be happening between India on one side and the Five Eyes nations, being United Kingdom, Australia, right, and so on and so forth. No, I don't think so. It's a loud incident, and just by its nature, because Trudeau decided to talk about it in the House of Commons, in the Parliament. But the issue itself happened before, not necessarily between India and Canada, but between Saudi Arabia and the United States, between Egypt and United States after 2013. Those events are loud and scary by their nature, but I don't think that this will result in any fundamental shift between those nations and India, because what's at stake is huge. India is not a small country. India is over 1 billion people with a population with great economic potential. Just a few days ago, I think you spoke about the Indo-Middle East, Europe,
IMAC, yes,
logistics, yes, and everybody's behind that strongly. the American president, the Prince of Saudi, India itself. So, no, I think it's a huge event, and it's loud just because of its nature, but I don't think it will result in any change
Rift.
of the relationship.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Dulat, if I can just turn to you, do you think that, there's all this noise now being made about whether Joe Biden will actually come for the Republic Day function as a chief guest, whether the Quad will be held after that. Do you feel that it's affected the sharing of intelligence or joint counterterrorism operations? Do you feel there's some element of doubt, in whether India will make a credible partner? Or do you think that's all just noise?
No, I don't think it's going to affect anything in a big way. Nations, countries take a position at a particular point of time for whatever reasons they have, and everybody does it in their own national interest. With regard to this Khalistan thing, I think a couple of things. I think let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. And, I think there's huge exaggeration about this whole Khalistani business. Yeah, there are guys who think like that, but it's not a threat to India or to India's sovereignty or anything. And if there are people, then, as I said, we should ask for extradition. It's not easy, but we should ask for it. The other thing, of course, is I think we need to revert, instead of the intelligence agencies just now, which seem to be in disrepute, we need to turn to the diplomatic district and try and de-escalate this whole business. We need to talk, and wiser counsel should prevail and just, get over this whole business.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Mr. Singh, if I can just ask you about the Canadian angle, the Chinese angle. You had this, the fact apparently is that, there are Chinese holding 2 Canadian citizens hostage, and a member of Trudeau's Liberal Party is supposed to have encouraged the Chinese to hold the 2 Indians hostage, to hold the 2 Canadians hostage. Is this, isn't this shows a growing Chinese influence in Canada, or is it just Trudeau pointing fingers in India, trying to make a big story about India while avoiding the whole Chinese interference issue?
Hello, to come up for 2 minutes.
Mr. Singh, can you hear me?
You're asking me or Mr.
Yeah,
Dulat?
yeah. No, I'm asking you. Mr. Dulat. Mr. Dulat.
No, I can answer that for
Please answer. Please answer.
And yeah, obviously, if Prime Minister Trudeau is closing up to the Chinese, then it would be to maintain his own political balance or whatever it is. And these things happen. They're played out like that. And I can tell you that whatever is happening, because this is happening with the West now, the Chinese and the Russians would be the happiest. They would be laughing at whatever is happening.
That's true. That's true. They love this rift between the West and us.
Say good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dulat. Thank you. Yes. So if I can just conclude, Mrs. Singh and Professor Hassan, with concluding remarks. We've got did we put too much pressure, you think, on was ours an overreaction to what Canada's statement was, and should we have handled it with a little bit more decorum?
Yeah, that's right. But I think it should have been handled more diplomatically, as I said earlier, because issues have to be sorted out through negotiations. And there are diplomatic channels available all the time. And now there are so many forums. You see, now you have G20, you have BRICS, you have United Nations, you have so many forums. So you can talk to leaders, and some dirty linen is not to be washed publicly. It has to be sorted out. And people should not people should not get a feeling of insecurity anywhere in the world. So everybody wants to live peacefully. And there are issues, there are problems. Nobody can deny that. There are elements who are talking about Khalistan. There are elements who are talking about creating division among communities. But they have to be handled under rule of law. There is a law. As Mr. Dulat suggested, there has to be extraditions. But then with the extraditions are the legal processes involved. As he mentioned, like India wanted to extradite some top business executives from England. Maybe it's Malia and others, but they couldn't do it. So because
but we've also had. I mean, like an Operation Blue Star and things like that. We've actually had people on the inside who've told us, you covered Operation Blue Star. So I mean, there were people on the inside who kept giving us information about what was going on. Why is it that we don't have the same source of information, as in, a constant flow from what's happening in Canada, so we can prevent or preempt, incidents of such violence or, toxicity?
That's why. That's what I said earlier. The mistrust has to go. You have to build a trust. You have to win over the people. You have to win their confidence. You just can't accuse everybody to be a Khalistani or a secessionist. There are good people. There are good, well-meaning people also. But you cannot club them together into one group. Whosoever is outside India.
Professor, if you could just come in, if you can just come in with concluding remarks, what do you see going forward? Do you see it getting worse until the elections, or do you see it?
My own perspective, I don't think that the Liberals will hold the next governing party. But apart from that, a lot of mishaps happen between allies. If you remember, during the era of Obama, they were spying on Chancellor Angela Merkel in
That's
Germany.
Right.
So
Yes.
it happens between allies. And such incidents have to be dealt with diplomatically and with cool heads. I think because of the social media weight on us all in this time of history, any small incident can blow up out of proportion. Will it affect the relationships between the two nations? I don't think so. Will it create rift between people? It might, because the people will be, apprehensive about dealing with each other. We're neighbors here. So if I see a person with the turban, with the Sikh turban, should I be scared? You know what I mean? So it affected our day-to-day life, definitely. But on the level of the two nations, I don't think it will affect that much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Professor Hassan. Thank you, professors, because you really gave us an insider's perspective. And Mr. Singh, thank you so much, for all the interesting information on the Khalistanis. And thank you, Mr. Dulat, for being on the show. We really, really are deeply honored. Thank you, viewers, for watching Global Express. Do click on the New Indian Express website and watch the episode.